I'm Tom Netcher. In this episode of Fraud Squad, we're going to look at charity fraud. Now, this is the type of fraud that directly affects those people who really need our help the most. Think of Hurricane Katrina, the tsunami in Japan, earthquakes in New Zealand and in Haiti. And who can forget the images of injured children and homeless families among the dead and the dying? Naturally, we all want to help these victims of disasters, and many of us do. In fact, billions of dollars are raised worldwide each year to help. But whenever there's human agony and suffering, the fraudsters are there too, and all they see is profit and opportunity. After Hurricane Katrina, 4,000 websites materialized almost instantly to raise money for the victims. As you can imagine, unfortunately, many of these websites were fraudulent. But there's another type of charity fraud that tugs at your heartstrings even more. In our first segment, we'll show you how people in your own community can claim to have cancer and beg for donations to help fight their disease. They prey on their friends, their relatives, and their neighbors. They even change their appearance to convince you of their illness. We'll show you how to avoid these frauds and make sure that your money reaches the victims who truly need it.
Seeing someone go to that extreme for a charity fraud is unusual.
Quite shocking, and I think people feel very hurt by this type of fraud.
In talking with her, in seeing her, they believed that it was due to chemo treatment.
Ashley was 23 years old when she was diagnosed with a benign tumor. After having it removed, she craved for more attention, so she told everyone around her that her cancer was in fact terminal.
The fraud itself that Ashley was involved in spanned roughly 1 year. Convincing people that she had cancer had started prior to that, but the fraud period lasted from approximately August of 2009 to August of 2010. Ashley has a difficult relationship with her family, and when she had a tumor, or a benign tumor, removed from her, she wanted her family to feel sympathetic towards her. Initially, it was one form of cancer, and then she gradually said that the cancer was spreading and affecting other parts of her body. And it seems that she did this to try to initially gain sympathy from her family. Well, the family tells other people, and then new friends know, and then some people become strangers that find out about it. Money that she gathered, she used to pay for basic things that she needed. She was working during the time frame that she was purported to be suffering with cancer, but she was not getting enough money to get herself the things that she needed for day-to-day life.
The person that would sometimes portray themselves as having some illness or to get sympathy for illness, there is a psychological component to that. It's called Munchausen syndrome, where people are saying that they're sick or almost like a hypochondriac in order that they might, get attention or something like that. The person doesn't see that they have a way out. And usually there's something going on behind the scenes. In my experience, there's usually something going on, especially if it's attention seeking. There's something going on in their personal lives, sometimes things lacking in their personal lives, whether it be financial or greed, that causes them to sort of grasp onto something that gives them some sense of self-worth or importance. They just get so in over their heads with the story, and it just ends up spinning out of control.
So she shaved her head and shaved her eyebrows and tweezed out her eyelashes.
What is a warning sign that you may be dealing with a fraudulent charity? A, aggressive telephone canvassers who ask for your credit card number. B, a door-to-door canvasser who does not have any official charity identification. C, you come across a charity's website that you've never heard of before. Or D, all of the above.
The correct answer is D. All of the described warning flags may indicate that you're dealing with a fraudulent charity.
People who came forward to assist Ashley had started a Facebook page in support of her charity. People came forward from that, and through attending events of small bands performing and things like that, she met a number of people, and she befriended these people. And in talking with her, in seeing that she had no hair, that her eyebrows were gone, that her eyelashes were gone, they believed that it was due to chemo treatment. Many of them, out of the goodness of their hearts, offered to assist her in any way they could. Some donated money, and some assisted in arranging venues for her to set up a small booth at, asking for change and selling t-shirts.
And it just warms my heart to know that they're...
Once outsiders become involved, they have no control over, so-and-so tells so-and-so, and then they're really interested, and then they get contacted, and the person just feels themselves being backed into a corner.
Her Facebook page had suggested to people to save jars of loose change, and then when she's at a local event, come by and donate the jar of change. And she actually collected money through this and through the sale of t-shirts. It was at no time registered, there was no bank account for it, nothing.
Eventually, people became suspicious of Ashley and began to ask questions about her behavior.
It started to unravel because of a trip that she took to, I believe it was Australia, where she had posted photos on her Facebook page, her personal one, that showed her enjoying herself, having a good time. So there were some inconsistencies that began to arise, and people started wondering, okay, what's happening here? We contacted the witnesses and established what we believed had happened. There was contact made by a third party with Ashley saying the police are looking into this. It had already hit the media and had become very, very public. She came in immediately, and she was arrested, and I went through an interview with her. She confessed in the interview, and she was very remorseful in the interview for what had happened. She was very upset with what she'd done. She cried quite a lot in the interview. She confessed fully to what had happened. She advised that the money had been used for herself and not for frivolous things, but for basic necessities of life. One of the things that came to light is that she also went so far as to attempt to hire an actor to come to her home while she had someone present and pretends to be a doctor doing a house call to confirm that she had cancer and to continue with the treatment. The person had actually refused to do it. Legitimate charities become very harshly hit by things like this because people become very skeptical about giving to charities, which, although it's fine to be skeptical to avoid suffering a scam, you also have to trust enough to give to legitimate ones, because those legitimate charities give back to the people who truly need it, so those people end up suffering because of one person who does something like this.
Educating yourself, asking questions, being aware, and if you don't like what you're hearing and you're not satisfied with the answers, there are lots of other charities out there. So you should go to another charity if you're not getting the answers you want.
She received a little bit over a year of house arrest, followed by 2 years probation, and she's also required to do some community service work, which cannot have anything to do with charities or collecting money for charities. In that time frame, although it's difficult to estimate how much was collected because a lot of it was pocket change that was donated in the sale of t-shirts, and there's no records kept.
What is an indication that a charity website may be fraudulent? A, the charity website is well established and has operated for many years. B, the charity website encourages donations to be made in multiple ways. C, the charity website is poorly constructed and has spelling errors. D, the charity website provides immediate official receipts for your donation. The correct answer is C. Sometimes fraudulent websites may have poor grammar and spelling errors. Official, well-run charities usually have professional websites. When a natural disaster strikes, good people help. Whether it's a hurricane, tornado, forest fire, tsunami, or some other horrendous disaster, good people try to do good things. But disasters that bring out the best of humanity also turn over rocks that allow fraudsters to crawl out and ply their trade. Fraudsters use disasters to set up fake charities and bilk us out of millions of dollars. It's an outrageous fraud. The best way to stop it is to be aware of how it happens. In this episode, we'll show you how to fight disaster fraud.
When a disaster strikes and it's on air in live time, it's very satisfying for a donor to be able to go to the website and make a gift.
When we have a crisis in the country, it is natural for folks to want to give, and yet there are scammers who will take advantage of those situations.
These criminals, within minutes, are using social networking, emails, setting up websites, etc., much faster often than the real charities are able to, trying to impersonate them and scam people out of their money. We see over 30,000 websites every single day that are being either infiltrated by scammers or being set up by scammers. So it's a very big problem.
More than half of the money that we do receive will come online. So Doctors Without Borders, like any other nonprofit or commercial organization, is not immune to phishing schemes, email hoaxes.
Phishing is a fraudulent practice of sending emails in order to trick people to reveal personal information, such as their credit card numbers.
We've seen some themes in the ones that have gone around where people are claiming to be us. An email will be sent around from someone purporting to be, say, a nurse, looking for money to help her get out of that country, a plane ticket home, or to bribe a border guard. That's garbage. Doctors Without Borders takes care of its aid workers. It's my role to raise all the private income that we need to make sure our medical services are delivered in 70 countries around the world.
We may think of the charity that being the victim. Of course, the charity is part of the list of victims of these types of crimes, but the real victims, of course, are the people that are hungry, need clothing and shelter and other things after these tragedies. Their friends and neighbors around the world are reaching out and offering assistance, and unfortunately, some of them are accidentally lining the pockets of criminals. There are many different people involved in organized crime on the internet, and it includes everyone from perhaps your neighbor all the way to somebody around the other side of the world. I mean, the internet enables us to communicate so freely anywhere and instantly, and that works both ways, both for the people working for good and those that are perhaps working to defraud the good. So they may hire a professional web designer just like a company might hire to put together a fake website to impersonate someone. They might hire another guy to send out large batches of emails, and perhaps another person to design a Facebook page to draw even more people into the scam.
Yeah, I got the money.
So they'll go to a real charity's website and download all of the graphics and logos and content from that site and make an exact duplicate. So it's very difficult for an unsuspecting person to detect that it's fake.
For me, it was quite personal because I had worked in my prior career with the Mississippi State government down there, so I was very familiar with what the coast looked like prior to Hurricane Katrina. A lot of my friends actually had people living with them at their homes. They went down for weeks at a time to rebuild. We did have issues in the very beginning with websites, and it was an educational tool that we had to get out to the public to alert them that there were false websites. They had nothing to do with real charities at all.
Rescues, helicopters, plenty of pictures circulated on that. The bad guy embeds code into the JPEG that he sends you. And when you open it, there is a picture there, but you also clicked on an executable file that has just compromised your computer.
We've all seen scammers that have stolen money from grandmothers and grandfathers and everything else. But in this particular case, it was so egregious because you had people that were dying and that had lost everything they had. They don't care and did not care about any human life, in my opinion. I think that's pretty well the opinion of the American public.
We provide computer security software and data protection like encryption, antivirus products, this type of stuff for businesses and organizations. Of course, it's very important for charities to both protect the identities and information they collect about the victims and from the donors. Yeah, clearly there are many different victims, but obviously the most important victim are the people that are in need after these tragedies. We certainly saw this with Fukushima in Japan. We saw this with the Christchurch earthquakes in New Zealand. When there's grieving families, people in need, they're homeless, they're hungry, they have a lot of very base needs, and by directing the money in the wrong direction, it certainly hurts them the most. In order to retain people's trust, to be comfortable with providing them with a credit card or recurring charges, perhaps to help that charity over periods of time, need to have very serious security policies in place.
We have, at the time of transaction, a number of technology solutions in place where donors can be guaranteed that their gift will be secure.
Because the information is being sent out looking like it's from them, and there's no way for them to stop that information from going out. We can proactively often detect and know where that information is and prevent that fake communication from ever reaching your inbox or allowing your web browser to go to that site so that you can't be victimized.
Internet fraud, these types of schemes, I'm happy to say, have never impacted the work on the ground. But on the other hand, it may breed some skepticism in the minds of donors about giving online, which is what we don't want to have.
People are confusing the idea that there was fraud associated with this tragedy, that somehow that might be, tarnishing their name, even though they didn't do anything wrong.
Who benefits as a result of charity fraud? A, the victims of disasters. B, the people who put in false claims as the result of a disaster. C, the charities who raise funds to help people in disasters. Or D, people who give money to charities. The correct answer is B. The only people who benefit as a result of disaster fraud are the fraudsters themselves. Fraudsters find ways to make money from charities, government programs, and insurance.
I think we have a lot better organized effort to combat the fraud that is associated with that very, very early on.
People are charitable. They are inherently philanthropic. But the good news is you can align yourself with a charitable organization whose mandate and mission it is to fill those gaps for something that you're so very passionate about. Doctors Without Borders wants to assure all its supporters that this is not only safe, but ideal way to give.
These days, we do conduct business on the internet, and there's ways to do it properly. Do I delete emails without opening them? Absolutely, I do. And I advise people to do that. If you don't know who sent you that email, delete it.
Now, we want to hear from you. So Fraud Squad takes it to the streets to hear some of your stories.
One time I was in Bangkok, and it was right after the tsunami, and they tried to set up all these fundraisers and stuff, and they had a television there that was showing clips of the tsunami. And what that was a diversion for people to get together and watch television as 3 or 4 guys would go around pickpocketing the people that were watching the TV, all these clips of the tsunami relief.
Yes, just this week, my girlfriend, who's a school teacher, we're just getting back to school, and she was at the bank machine, and she noticed 2 girls were sort of watching her at the bank machine, and she didn't really think anything of it, but they were acting a little odd, and then she went down to the subway, and one of them bumped her, and a few minutes later, she noticed her wallet was gone, and she just put on Facebook, seconds later, all her money was taken out of her bank account.
What happened is I got a phone call one night during the Leafs playoff games, and the guy said it was my neighbor's son across the street. He was in Winnipeg. He'd been in a fight. He was in jail. He couldn't tell his dad. Could I go out and send him some money? Because I thought, hey, it's the kid across the street. He then told me to go to Money Mart. I went to Money Mart, transferred the money. The next day, I see his dad out fixing my car. And I said, is Bob back? And he said, what do you mean is Bob back? Bob's never left. I said, hey, and Bob was in jail out west. I just sent him 300 and I've come to get my 300 back. He said, Bob's been in the house all the time. He's never come back. He says, you just got scammed.
I sent money to my roommate over Western Union, and when she went to pick up the money, it was gone, and it was like 2,500 British pounds. And then when we went to kind of talk to the police about it, they found out that there were a lot of different people being scammed out of money from this particular Western Union location, and they shut it down.
I was working at a charity event in downtown Toronto, and two girls who were running the 50-50 draw, they were volunteers at the event as well, took off with all the money at the end of the night, and nobody had any contact information for them, so they literally walked away as thousands of dollars.
Well, that wraps up another episode of Fraud Squad. Remember, we're fighting fraud together.